Good morning, Bucknutters. It's Thursday, April 27th, 2017. I am Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 and Change, coming to you from an overcast Gem City. I know people love the weather updates. Talking to the one and only Steve Wiltfong, Director of Recruiting for 24/7 Sports, coming to you from, what else, a gray Indianapolis. Steve, how goes it this fine morning?
Danny, I get my 2-year-old dressed every morning. I check the weather to see what kind of gear to put him in. It's in the 60s now, going to be in the 50s later, in the 80s yesterday. I haven't had my smoothie yet because I got more Dallas Gant info this morning and wrote a story, so my smoothie's waiting for me in the fridge, so I'm doing this show with my stomach grumbling. How are you, brother?
Very well. So people know that Steve's working with a limp. He is smoothie-less. And those who commented that he probably had a 2-smoothie morning the other day will probably keep a close eye on his production today. But he made a reference to what we're going to start with today. Dallas Gant, the number 1 outside linebacker in the country, the Toledo native, thought to be a Notre Dame-Ohio State tussle. Steve, you have a vibe on how that tussle will turn out. And as we were getting ready to tape the show this morning, you sent in your crystal ball pick as we were chatting for Dallas Gant to attend Ohio State. Give us the breakdown.
Nobody hates being on speakerphone more than Daniel Rubin, but I had to.
Oh, I don't do it.
Write the article, and he's like, "You're on speaker, turn it off." He refuses to talk. It's like the conversation.
You know why?
You
know why?
Tell us why, Dan. Tell us why.
I don't know who else is in the room.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Gotcha.
And that's what, I am not speaking on the record or to anybody in this business, and haven't ever, unless I know who's in the room. So. When we chat, peeps, no speaker. Go ahead.
Anyway, I was diverting because I went to Dallas Gant High School a couple weeks ago, and I took my long-time Ohio State crystal ball pick and flipped it to foggy. There were also obviously reports from other people where they thought Notre Dame was in better position than people were saying at the time. I think we were all wrong. And not that he doesn't have interest in Notre Dame. I mean, hell, he was back at Notre Dame over the weekend and spent a long time on campus. Even left with merchandise, but sounds like it's still Ohio State leads. I feel good about it. I've crystal balled the Buckeyes again and then posted on our Notre Dame site some other potential linebacker targets for them. So, I don't think Ohio State, he's been to Ohio State 18 times or so, as one source described it. Another source says that, the Buckeyes lead and Notre Dame, it was a good visit to Notre Dame over the weekend. But all signs pointing to Ohio State. I think sometimes in this business you're wrong, and then other times you're just trying to find reasons and to maybe have a different narrative. And I don't know if it was that or I can't speak for others. My gut did think it was Notre Dame, and my gut was wrong, and I'm back with the Buckeyes.
Probably needed some more smoothies in that gut to get yourself set up. It's probably the problem.
Not enough greens in there. Sometimes we have spinach in it, and then sometimes we have spinach and kale, and I need to double up.
Oh, I knew you were going to go. I knew the word kale was coming up there. It's my.
I sneak. That's how I sneak my. It's not like I like them, but you bury them, and you don't know you're getting them, Dan. I promise. Behind all those berries, and so that's the way to have kale. I'm not eating kale salads.
No, that's the way to have kale. That's just not a good sentence by you. But in general, listen, I think this might have something to do with the fact that he's a Toledo kid. His high school probably wanted to make it look like he's looking at all the schools to keep the relationships good with Indiana.
I think I just misread it.
Schools. Yeah?
I think I just misread it. I mean, because, the kid says great things about all the schools, and, he's been to Notre Dame the second most times, and a lot of kids from that school go to Notre Dame, and, he is a personality fit at Notre Dame. It's not Notre Dame. I was wrong. I think I'm wrong. Anyway, he hasn't announced. He announces May 16th, but I'm back with the Buckeyes.
Yeah, when you said, I did not know that number. When you said 18 times, that made my eyebrows
raise. Well, That's an
A
exaggeration.
dunk. Yeah.
But
Wow.
he's been to Ohio State a ton. I would use. Can we say the F word? Ton. He's been to Ohio State that many times.
You can certainly say that. This is
I cuss a lot in real life.
Live on the edge, don't we all?
Yeah.
I mean, we've discussed the recruiting. We'll talk about the commitments and stuff, but you had a story up there. You know, they just got the surprise commitment from Sevyn Banks. I didn't hear that from anybody.
Which sucks, because I actually was talking to a Ohio State source the other day that said, I think we're going to get Sevyn Banks, and I could have stuck in the crystal ball, but I didn't. But yeah, I certainly didn't expect it to happen as fast as it did, and neither did my source. But that's a good get. And he's a plus athlete, Dan. I mean, he's ranked as a high 3, but he's coming off a knee injury, but he tested really well at the Orlando Nike camp a couple months ago, ran 4.5 on the laser, verted over 40 inches. I think his change of direction agility was 4.2. He's long. He's an intelligent kid. You know, same with Alabama. When Alabama commits a 3-star, you're probably like, man, that kid is underranked. And then when you see him in camp, Alabama commits typically perform well, and then people bitch about the Bama bump. Ohio State's in that same realm of they're recruiting guys, and if they're taking them, oftentimes you could always make a case that an Ohio State commit is underranked. If they're a 3-star, this is another one of those times, and I look forward to seeing Banks again because he has all the traits of a guy that should be ranked higher than a high 3-star. And so, you know, we'll see how he comes on as a senior as he comes off the knee, but athletically, he's back and good to go there. So you're confident he's going to have a great senior year.
Yeah, we're to the point now where if Ohio State takes the commitment, I think the kid deserves the benefit of the doubt, especially at defensive back. Good Lord. But their recent track record is as good as anybody's has been in terms of producing talent for the NFL and really the history of college football in a short 2-3 year window.
The track record at every position. The track records at every position. I know they're hot at DB, but you're playing 4 of them. I mean, you know, hell, they're churning out O-linemen, they're churning out backers. They got the best running back in the NFL. They're going to have one of the best receivers in the NFL. Speaking of receiver, got to get my posted on the board. Terry McLaurin had a great spring, y'all, and everyone knows I'm partial to him. But that dude's going to play a ton of football for Ohio State this year, and he waited his turn. He could have left. He stayed in. He grinded. He competed. I think his roommate was Curtis Samuel, you know, and he just stayed after it and had a consistent spring. I know Johnny Dixon had a fantastic spring game. I think McLaurin had the more consistent spring. Johnny Dixon's a tremendous talent, though, and there's just so many good, talented players on the roster. It's just who's next? Who's next for Ohio State? I look forward to September and seeing guys that wrote about a couple years ago, and then you kind of forget about them pop again.
No, it's great. Listen, look at the Marshawn Lattimore one's the one I tell everybody. Literally a year ago, he was the guy with the bulky hamstrings, and now he's, you know.
What a great culture.
The guy with the bulky hamstrings who's about to get a $9 million check. Go ahead.
And we've talked about it before, but what a great culture for those guys to, you know, it's not easy for players, especially players of today, to ride the pine, whether they're hurt or they're just not playing. But the culture of inside that locker room, most of the guys love being there. And the Ohio State coaching staff and strength staff find a way to keep those guys fully invested while they're waiting. You know, those are little wrinkles that get overlooked. But so when Marshawn Lattimore's time comes, pop. You know, Jerry and Conley's time comes, pop. You know, hopefully
look at Curtis
McLaurin this year, right?
Yeah, but Curtis waited his turn. You know what I mean? A lot of guys have waited their turn and benefited greatly from it.
No doubt. And I'm hoping this year that my man McLaurin catches 85 balls and has a fantastic year because it's his time.
If he catches 85 balls, it will be a common theme on the BM5.
Kevin Wilson offense. Kevin Wilson.
Hey, listen, no one would rather see that more than me. Let's get back to recruiting real quick before we sign off here. in the last week, they've also gotten a commitment from Brenton Cox and the top defensive end in the country, Micah Parsons, decommitted from Penn State. Most people believe he did that to eventually land at Ohio State. What's your thoughts on Cox, and are you among the many who think Parsons will eventually end up in Columbus?
Well, Cox is one of the best defensive ends in the country. He's ranked that way. His upside, his ability to come off the edge. He's just another one of those potential freaks in this class. A huge get for Ohio State, as I think they're going to need to reload at the position. Is that true, Daniel? They're going to have to reload a little bit after this year on the edge. Is that right?
They do have a number of guys who will be leaving the program, but I would say their depth at the defensive end and defensive positions is what one would say excellent. Yep.
No question. But what makes you a contender is having all those bodies and reload.
No doubt.
And then with Micah Parsons, I think he decommitted because Penn State was. I think it was a situation where you're committed to Penn State. You can't keep continuing to take visits when Penn State doesn't want to see. Penn State was dealing with the thing where you got guys you're telling your other commits you don't want them to take visits, and then you got Micah Parsons taking visits, you got Justin Fields taking visits. They had to have some candid conversations with these young men, in my opinion. And it's would Micah Parsons still be committed if they didn't have that candid conversation to Penn State? I think he would be. Does that mean that he still wouldn't have flipped later? It's irrelevant. He's obviously looking around. So I think it was mutual that they decided to have Micah be back on the market again. Ohio State and Penn State, I think, are still the top two because talking to the family, I don't think Micah's going to go far from home. At least that's the vibe right now. Florida State, Alabama, USC, Georgia, those are other schools that are in play. But right now, the sense is he's going to stay closer to home. I still think Penn State's in it. It's obvious, he decommits to jump on Ohio State, and I think Ohio State has an excellent chance to land Micah Parsons as well, for sure. They're very much in it. But for me, I think that was more we can't let Micah Parsons take visits, but someone else. We're playing hardball with them, So, and Penn State's got some clout right now. They'll be a top 10 team coming into the season. Won the Big Ten last year, played in the Rose Bowl. They're in a situation where they can allow Micah to decommit and then still recruit the hell out of him, and they will. And their head coach is capable. But I guess right now my gut would say it's going to be Ohio State, and all the tea leaves say Ohio State. So. We'll see.
I get the real sense that Tyreek Smith, Teron Vincent, Brenton Cox, and our man are going to be a foursome. We shall see. That's a great place to end it with my man Steve. Keep in mind, we have complete NFL draft coverage coming to you all day. Obviously, this is going to be a very interesting day for the Buckeyes. You've got two guys who are almost guaranteed to go in the first round, Malik Hooker and Marshawn Lattimore. And another guy who we thought was going to be a good first-round draft pick in Gary Conley that's going through some crazy stuff. So keep it locked into Bucknuts. We appreciate Steve stopping by. Have a good one, Bucknutters.
Take care, guys. Thanks, Daniel.